Hello everyone, welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Ritu and today we are going to discuss an important topic of polity and IR, which is meeting between Kim Jong Un and Vladimir Putin. So in the last few months we have seen that a lot had happened in the international arena, and especially the last week India has concluded G20 summit. The President Biden has visited India, and after visiting of India he has visited Vietnam. The President of France has visited India and he has visited Bangladesh also. And Trudeau was struck in India due to the technical problem in his plane, and a lot has happened. India has also conducted bilateral exercises with many countries, and it had also conducted bilateral meeting with many countries. So there is a lot of buzz in the international arena, and among all these series we have seen that Kim Jong Un, who is the president of North Korea, and Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia, is meeting at Russia. So this is the news, and moving to the points of discussion. So first of all, we are going to discuss the news and its relevance, and then what is unusual about this meeting. We are going to discuss the reasons, and then what are the expectations of Russia from North Korea, and then what are the expectations of North Korea from Russia, and then we will study the outcomes, and later we will study the practice question for prelims and mains. So moving to the news part. So on 12th of September, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has visited Russia, and the meeting has been not concluded yet, but it has been decided that they will meet in Russia, and he has visited there by armed train. So this is the news, and this is very unusual thing. And why there is so much buzz over? Because only just two leaders are meeting, and we have seen that so many world leaders have met in the G20. But why there is so much buzz over these two leaders? Because nowadays North Korea has been isolated country. On the other hand, Russia is somewhat also isolated country. So what is the development between all these countries and what kind of talks they will have? We will discuss in the further slide. So this is the brief news about today's lecture. So moving to the next slide. Next slide is about what is unusual about it that two leaders are meeting. So the first thing is that it is unusual in nature because North Korean president has sealed its border in COVID time 2022, and after COVID time it has been not opened. So it has been recently opened for the international taekwondo competition, and it has sent that various taekwondo athletics to international competition. So this is the unusual thing about the North Korea. The second thing is that North Korean president is not known for various international trips or foreign trips. The last trip he has there by 2019, and since 2019 he has not visited any country, and after pandemic he has not visited any country. So this is another unusual thing. The second thing is that after 7 years of his presidentship he has taken his first international trip. So these kind of things are very unusual about North Korean president. So all these factors are very unusual regarding the meeting between Putin and North Korean president. On the other hand, there may be reasons that they are very good friends, but we have seen that there are so many highs and low points between these two countries, because when all the world country want to isolate North Korean for its extremist policy, the Russia has also supported in the UN. So these things we have seen that they had also shared the bitter relationship. So this is very unusual about this thing that they are meeting, and especially in Russia, and especially when there is Russia involved in the Ukraine war kind of situation. So moving ahead. So moving to the next slide. So next slide is about that what are the expectations of Russia from the North Korea. So the first expectation is that Russia wants support from North Korea in the terms of arms and ammunition, because it has involved in the war with Ukraine, and in this condition it wants support from the North Korea. The second thing that many US experts and international experts has said that it is very unusual from Russia part that in the war kind of situation the Russian defense minister has visited the North Korea, and which is very unusual thing. And why he has visited North Korea? Because he wanted support from the North Korea, because many country has isolated Russia. The third thing is that if Russia does buy weapons from North Korea, it will break the UN resolution, because UN resolution says that you cannot buy arms and ammunition from the isolated countries. And in the past, Russia had not supported these kind of activity. So it will be interesting to know that if Russia will break UN resolution or not. So these are the expectation of Russia from North Korea. So moving to the Next slide. So next slide is about what are the North Korea expectation from the Russia. The first expectation is that it wants food and energy supply from the Russia, because in pandemic there is a shortfall of food and energy supply in North Korea, and Russian land is known for the breakfast land. So it wanted food and energy supply from the Russia. The second thing is that the Russian technologies are very high and advanced technology. So they also want support from the Russian technology, especially in terms of high-tech weapons system, powerful long-range missiles, hypersonic ballistic weapons. So these all things are very developed in Russian countries. So they want to these kind of support from the Russia. And the third thing is that to remove its isolation, because both countries are in the isolation, especially North Korea is highly isolated country. So it wants to break its isolation. That's why they are meeting each other. So moving to the next slide. Next slide is about what are the outcomes. It means that the meeting has been not concluded yet, but we can say that what are the prospect of the outcomes. So the first thing is that there can be a possibility of bilateral military exercise. And since Korean War, North Korea has not involved in any bilateral military exercise. So it would be very interesting if it will be involved in bilateral exercise or not. The second thing is that they are also planning to conduct a trilateral exercise in which China will be also involved. So this can be also an outcome of all these meetings. The third thing is that the North Korea has always believed on the policy of juche, which means self-reliance. And because of this philosophy, it had not involved in any bilateral exercise. But right now it wants to break its isolation, and maybe it wants to mingle with other countries. That's why they want to involve in bilateral and trilateral exercise. So this can be possible outcomes of all these meetings. So moving ahead. So today's practice question for prelims is, consider the following statement regarding North Korea. Your first statement is it is located in East Asia, and your second statement is it borders 3 countries. Which of the statements given above are not correct? Here they are asking not correct statements, and your options are 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. So you have to answer this in the comment section. Moving to the mains part. The nuclear developments around the world is disrupting the peace. Comment, because nowadays we are saying that there are so many nuclear arm race is going between many countries, especially in Russia and Ukraine. China is also involved in this kind of things. Pakistan is also involved in these kind of activities. Iran, Syria, Turkey, all these countries are involved in this nuclear arm race. US, UK. So many developed countries and underdeveloped countries are also involved in nuclear arm race. So what are the bad impacts of all these things? So first you have to give the brief background about all these things, that what we had faced because of the nuclear arm race. So you can give the example of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, that how these things had disrupted the 2 cities, and effect can be seen nowadays. Also the radiation effect we can see, and we can see the health effect, the environmental effect, the economical effect, the socio-political impact, and the emotional impact also. So these are the bad impacts of this nuclear arm race, and so many humanities are compromised here. The properties are damaged, the emotional problems are damaged. So these things are occurred because of the nuclear arm race. So these are the bad impacts of the nuclear arm race. So coming to the point that what are the government initiatives and what international organizations are doing towards that. So the first thing that we have the policy of NPT, which is non-proliferation treaty. In the comment section you have to tell that India is a part of NPT or not. And then we have the policy of New START. Then in many things, just like G20 summit we had concluded right now, India has used the term territorial expansionism. So we should avoid these kind of territorial expansionism, and India had highly advocated that we should avoid these kind of expansionism in any part of the country. So these things in various mutual agreements, all countries should come together and they should agree that terrorism should not be there, nuclear arm race should be stopped, because ultimately it is impacting human. So these things should be stopped. So this can be your conclusion. I hope you like this lecture. If you have any queries related to this lecture, kindly ask in the comment section. The PDF of this session is available on Telegram, so kindly avail from there. Thank you.